Breaking news! The latest news has gotten the internet talking, and it just landed in Atlanta. I'll give you all the details, but before we dive into today's big news, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything happening with our team. Trust me, you won't want to miss any of the action, especially with what's happening right now. Now, let's get to it. It's been a busy week for the Atlanta Falcons, and the team is making moves ahead of a critical matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. After a tough 17-13 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, the Falcons made some roster adjustments that could signal bigger changes to come. First, the team signed running back Elijah Dotson to the practice squad. Dotson, who stands 5'10" and 205 pounds, originally signed with the Los Angeles Chargers as an undrafted free agent in 2023. He spent time on the Chargers practice squad and even appeared in 4 games last season, though his impact was limited to just 4 carries for 6 yards. Dotson was cut by the Chargers after the preseason, and he has been a free agent ever since, waiting for an opportunity to prove himself. Now, that opportunity has arrived with the Falcons. This move adds depth to the running back position, especially with the Falcons' backfield still looking for a spark heading into the final stretch of the season. But it's not just about adding new faces. The Falcons also made the decision to part ways with kicker Riley Patterson and linebacker Tyreek Maddox-Williams from the practice squad. Patterson was brought in last week as an emergency backup for Younghoe Koo, who is dealing with a right hip injury. Koo has been inconsistent this season, making just 6 of 12 field goals since mid-October, including a costly miss against the Chargers that coach Raheem Morris said changed the momentum of the game. Patterson was activated for Sunday's game but was inactive, and he has now been cleared. Maddox-Williams, who was with the Falcons for just 2 weeks, also finds himself out of the picture. After going undrafted in the 2022 draft, he signed with the Los Angeles Chargers before having brief stints with the Philadelphia Eagles and Arizona Cardinals. His time in Atlanta was short-lived, and the Falcons opted to move on without him. So what do these roster moves mean? With Elijah Dotson joining the practice squad, the Falcons now have another running back to develop behind their current options. Meanwhile, the kicker position appears to be all Younghoe Koo, despite his struggles this season. And with Maddox-Williams out, it looks like the Falcons are focusing on their key contributors heading into the matchup with the Vikings. But that's not the only big story right now. Another topic on every Falcons fan's mind is the quarterback situation, and the calls to bench Kirk Cousins in favor of rookie Michael Penix Jr. are getting louder. We all know how Cousins has struggled in recent weeks, especially after the bye week. In Sunday's game, he threw for 245 yards, but the real issue was his 4 interceptions, including a pick-6 that lost him the game. It's hard to ignore the fact that Cousins has been underwhelming, and many fans are questioning whether it's time for a change. Former Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan weighed in on the debate, and his take might surprise you. While Ryan acknowledged that Cousins' performance on Sunday was far from ideal, he argued that throwing rookie Michael Penix Jr. into the fire against the stout Vikings defense would not be fair. The Vikings are one of the NFL's best teams when it comes to turnovers, with 18 interceptions and 39 sacks. Ryan stressed that asking a rookie like Penix to start in that environment would be detrimental to his development. Now, let's be real. If the Falcons were facing a weaker opponent, like the Las Vegas Raiders or New York Giants, things might be different. Ryan didn't shut down the idea of Penix playing in those matchups, especially if Cousins continues to struggle. But with the Vikings being the tough team they are, Ryan believes that sticking with Cousins for now is the best option. But here's the thing, Falcons fans, the clock is ticking. The NFC South is still within reach, but the Falcons' lead has been shrinking, and if Cousins doesn't turn things around soon, the pressure to make a change will only grow. If Cousins can play like the veteran we know he is, the questions about Penix will disappear. But if his struggles continue, head coach Raheem Morris may be forced to make a tough decision. And then there's the contract situation. Cousins is locked into a 4-year, $180 million deal, which raises even more questions. If Penix were to get the nod, what does that mean for Cousins' future in Atlanta? These are the kinds of discussions the front office will need to have if this team is going to make a serious playoff push. Então, faz dos Falcons, quero ouvir de vocês. O que vocês acham dos movimentos do elenco dos Falcons esta semana? Vocês estão animados para ver Elijah Dotson ter uma chance? E qual é a sua opinião sobre a situação do quarterback Raheem Morris deve ficar com Cousins ou é hora de dar uma chance a Michael Penix Jr.? Kirk Cousins is still the Atlanta Falcons starting quarterback heading into Week 14, but there's been a lot of talk about whether that should change. In this video, I'm breaking down 3 big reasons why the Falcons are keeping Kirk Cousins for this critical game and why it might be the right move, at least for now. First, let's talk about the contract. This is probably the most obvious reason why the Falcons can't just hand the keys to the offense to Michael Penix Jr. right now. If you've been following the Falcons this season, you know that Cousins' play hasn't been great. He's been losing the ball at a high rate and struggling to move the offense consistently. But here's the problem: Cousins has a huge contract. The Falcons have invested a lot of money in him, and if they bring in a rookie like Penix, they're essentially paying Cousins to be the most expensive backup in the league. It's not an ideal situation for the Falcons, especially considering they have a rookie quarterback in Penix who was drafted with the idea that he would step in when Cousins could no longer perform at a high level. So even though Penix could be the future, the Falcons can't afford to make that move just yet. Cousins is still under contract, and they have to stick with him for now, hoping he can turn things around. Which brings us to the second reason: there's no reason to throw Penix into the fire against Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. Look, if Kirk Cousins is going to have one last chance to save his season, it's going to be against his old team, the Vikings. Minnesota is 10-2, and they've been dominant on defense, especially under defensive coordinator Brian Flores. The Vikings have one of the scariest blitz packages in the league, and they've made even the most experienced quarterbacks look lost. If the Falcons start Penix now, he could get crushed by this defense, and that could really hurt him. This is not the right game to hand the keys to a rookie. Cousins, despite his struggles, is much better equipped to handle the pressure and challenge that Minnesota brings. If he's going to turn his season around, it has to be against his old team, with all bets on the line. The Falcons can't afford to put a rookie in that situation, especially when they're still in the NFC South race. Now, if Cousins doesn't show up and perform well against the Vikings, that brings us to the third reason: Week 15 would be the perfect time for Penix to make his debut. After facing the Vikings, the Falcons have a short week before facing the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football. The Raiders have a defense that isn't as intimidating as Minnesota's, and that could provide a much safer environment for Penix to make his first start. If Cousins can't take care of the ball and continue to show that he can lead the team, Week 15 could be the right time for Penix to step in and show what he's got. The timing couldn't be more perfect. If the Falcons can't beat the Raiders with Cousins under center, it's time for a change. But if Cousins shows up, the Falcons could potentially end their primetime losing streak and get back into the playoff conversation. This is the kind of win that defines a season and could give the team and fans a reason to believe again. The Falcons should be able to beat the Raiders no matter who the starting quarterback is, but if Cousins can't take care of the ball, the Falcons will have no choice but to make a change. So, Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. Do you think Kirk Cousins should get another chance against the Vikings, or is it time to let Michael Penix Jr. take over? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what you think. And don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for the latest updates. It's a huge week for our team, and we'll be here with all the news you need. Go Falcons!